I've missed
that was
that.
quick.
And we're live.
We are live.
We're live.
We're back.
We're back. Hello, everybody. Hello. Anyone out there? I know.
Hopefully.
We have been gone for a little bit. COVID lockdowns. They put a lot of strain on a lot of people. So we thought we'll take a breather for ourselves and for everyone else. But we're back. We're live. My name is Craig, or Crafty, from Craftworks Distillery. I'm a distillery out in Capity, about 3 hours west of Lithgow. So for those that don't know, this is Aussie craft distillers shooting the shit. And we created this a while ago. The concept behind it is we talk with fellow distillers and people in the industry, and we basically just have conversations. It's shooting the shit, talking about what's going on in their world, what they're up to, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it's pretty freewheeling, and we like people to contribute with questions, but we also like people to contribute by drinking Australian craft spirits. So as you're watching us, we're drinking Australian craft spirits, and we'll tell you what we're drinking, and we'd like to hear what you're drinking. So before I go any further, I'll introduce our guests, then we'll go around our rooms and we'll tell you what's in our glass. So our special guests tonight are Stephen and Rosemary from Blacksnake Distillery. Now, for those who don't know, they're in New South Wales, a New South Wales proud distillery, a small family-owned operation, and their specialty is agave. And it's pretty different. So, Stephen and Rosemary, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm glad you're here. The last time we caught up was at the Blackgate World Whiskey Day, and that was a fun time, wasn't it?
It's quite good.
Yeah, and it was a chance we all got together, let our hair down, and some had more hair than others, and we just chilled, drunk great Australian spirits, and from there, that's where we had the discussion with Stephen and Rosemary about, do you want to do a shoot in the shit? And they were like, we're keen to do a shoot in the shit. So let's go around the room. So let's start at the top. So my right-hand man, the Todd Pointer, who is my right-hand man at Craftworks, part-timer, doesn't get paid, but loves it. What's in your glass, mate? What are you drinking?
Tonight, I am drinking Manly Spirits first release.
Very nice.
Coastal
Very
Stone.
nice.
It is
Very
fantastic. Nice. Get yourself a bottle of that. I seriously think you should rush out and do it.
Which one are you drinking?
This is Coastal Stone first release. Can't remember. Put me on the spot, why don't you? Sherry cask.
Sherry cask.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
For those who haven't tasted that's a New South Wales distillery, and that bottle that they've designed and the sandstone top is like nothing else. It's a real piece of art. And the bottle, I love the bottle. Okay, at the bottom of the screen.
It's very much like opening up an iPhone.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just layer after layer.
Layer up and layer of experience. Exactly right. All right, so we go to the bottom of the screen. Good friend, Luke, who is also a local nerd. He's part of Craftworks, and it'll be more and more in the future. He doesn't really know that yet, but it's happening. He did his.
Now that I've finally got my RSA.
He did his RSA, and he did it in one day. So very impressed.
Smashed it.
So what are you drinking, mate?
I've got something a little special. I was gifted a bottle of, it's probably a bit hard to see there, Coralline down in Tassie. It's a special release by a client of mine, actually, Michael Amler. He worked with the guys at Coralline to produce this very nice little drop. And I'm pleased to have one of the 180 old bottles.
Wow.
Very nice.
That's impressive. Okay, Stephen and Rosemary, what's in your glass? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking our just released Pachuga with the kangaroo press, which we call Pachugaroo. Well, he called it Pachugaroo.
It's not official.
Which is a brilliant name. Absolutely brilliant name. That's amazing. You're going to have to describe it to us because nobody knows what that tastes like.
Save it for now. Save it for now because we'll come back and we'll go through and let you explain what you do, how you do it, and what your products are because it's very, very unique. So I'm drinking.
I'm drinking a different one.
Oh, sorry, Stephen. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking the Haven, which is our. Whoops, where are we? And there we are. A nice Haven, 48%. It's our latest release, actually, which is very good.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good.
Tasty. Very, very tasty. Awesome. Well, I'm drinking. One of the joys about being in this industry is, as craft distillers, you don't tend to buy other craft distillers' bottles.
I enjoy. Yeah.
Crafty has just exited the building.
Yeah.
His technological skills pale. Everybody pales before him. He is the greatest of technological wizards, so much so that he's now trying to just beam himself directly into everybody's brain rather than via the live stream. So we'll see whether he decides to come back. Who knows? We'll carry on without him anyway. So, hold on. Here he comes. He's coming back.
I'm back. I'm here.
Probably not. Did you knock it over?
No. I've got a problem. I've got a flat battery, and I've got a lot of rain on the roof. So I've got my earpieces in, but my earpieces, because it's an iPhone, plug into the power inlet on the iPhone. So it's a struggle between having sound or having power. So I've made a decision to go for power. So if I start yelling. So what I was saying was, as a craft distiller, you tend to swap little wee samples with each other just to see what everyone's doing. And I was quite fortunate. Peter Bignell from Belgrove, we've done a bit of a swap. So tonight I'm drinking, first of all, the Remnant, I think it's 1500. It's a vatting and it's 46%. Then I'm going to follow up with a hopped malt at 46%, which sounds interesting. And then I'll finish up with a lovely rye at 45%. So thanks, Pete. They're awesome samples, and he's got a few of mine, and lots of distillers do that. So that's pretty cool. So let's kick off. Okay, Stephen, Rosemary, we don't know you. We know nothing about you. Oh, this is the game I'm playing. So introduce yourself and tell us how you got into it and why you got into it.
So as Rosemary's looking at me to this intro. Well, as you know, we make an agave spirit in the style of Mezcal. But how we started was that quite a few years ago, well, it's in excess of 5 now, a daughter of ours was in Mexico, and when she came back talking about the country, the life, not just the actual alcohol itself, but the lifestyle and so on surrounding Mezcal in Mexico. And so we thought, just investigated, and it turned out that one of the main species of agave that they use was growing on our place. So we started the as you probably are aware, long and tortuous process of going from knowing not much to ending up distilling an agave spirit in the style of Mezcal. Over the time, we've learned a lot, and there's still a lot to learn, of course. But and then doing different things, starting off with essentially the Haven style, and then the other ones like the Reposado and so on. You've got some things you want to add?
what can I say? Well, when we first started, I didn't really have that much interest in it, and as embarrassing as it is to say, 5 years ago, I can't even remember having tequila, let alone knowing what mezcal was, and in my life with Stephen, he's often gone to the shed and done projects, and I've been very uninterested in them. And he said he was going to make some agave spirit, and I sort of said, well, whatever. And so I thought it would be something that would be a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Then I thought
It's not as if I've ever done that before.
Exactly. You know,
It's like buying an old car, pulling it apart, and can't put it back together again.
So I thought I should take a bit of an interest in this. So, you know, we sort of looked up, discovered what Mezcal was. I think I had a bit of an idea what tequila was. So anyway, needed a bit of a benchmark. So as being typical Stephen, we went to Dan Murphy's and buy a bottle so we could, you know, get a bit of an idea of the taste. And typical Stephen went for the absolutely lower end, which I've got here. I don't know whether I can show it. I'll show the back of the bottle.
No, sorry.
And so we brought that home and I tried it, and seriously, it tasted like, you know, when you were a teenager and you did burnouts and that smell of burning rubber?
Bogan burnout.
I can remember standing at the kitchen bench and saying to Stephen, nobody will ever drink this shit. And anyway, as time went on, it progressed and it got better and
Well,
better.
it wasn't ours.
No, this is not ours. This is what Steve bought me to have an idea of what we were intending
I
to
hadn't
make.
tasted that brand.
Now, when you say
wasn't
as
very-
time went on and it got better and better, are we talking hours or are we talking weeks?
No,
And
years.
not the drinking of it. Is that
Not
like-
that. No. I think we studied a lot. We read a lot of stuff, and it's never been an easy plant to work with, which I think Stephen should talk to you more about. I'm more involved in the Pachuga style and anything that you add to it, and sort of like the smelling. We kind of complement each other. Stephen doesn't have the best sense of smell and taste due to a motorbike accident when he was younger, quite a bad one. And so he's very mathematical and does it all by that way. And I've been music teaching and playing in bands for years, so I'm deaf. So I use my smell and he uses his brain, so it just works well together.
Oh yeah, we basically I'm still learning, and we went over to Mexico as well, and
you've
it's
got all
very helpful to
senses.
us.
Between us, yeah.
So how?
Because when we
There's-
sorry.
You say your daughter went to Mexico and then explained all about mezcal and tequila. A normal person wouldn't just go, all right, well, I'm going to make that now. Did you have access to agave? Did you have
How'd you do your research?
I've got one agave in my garden here, but you've got to have a lot, don't you?
Yeah, well, a reasonable amount. I mean, okay. Well, I suppose, as usual, I may not have done things the best way because, one, I'm fairly, I like to say frugal, but other people have different terms for that. And so I actually started off, I didn't even have a still. So we basically, I ended up making the still initially and since bought one. But the idea was that essentially we've learned, I guess, partly by experimentation, and also that's even before we went to Mexico, we started making this. Sort of going to Mexico was almost halfway through the process. It's almost like we now know some of what we need to know, and we know some of the things we don't know. You know, it's a terrible way to do it anyway. And then going to Mexico helped us a lot in that because we were open about what we were doing and so on. We actually took a couple of our bottles over with us, which were quite well received, and I think we're doing even better now. And we said, this is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to take your cultural heritage, but we're trying to produce an agave spirit. Sort of, and the terminology I usually use is that using the Mexican traditions, but with an Australian accent. So and that's what we're trying to do. Respect their story, but add our bit to that story as well. And they were very supportive.
one of the things that I've noticed with the area of spirit that you're involved in, it's very physical. You know, cutting down the what do you call them, pinas? Is that the term? Or
Pina, making the pina.
Pina, and then you cook them, and you break them down. And so it's a very physical process. It's I mean, I bet you moan about carrying bags of barley around, but God, you guys do. It keeps you fit, I'm sure.
Well, I lost a bit of weight doing it.
He certainly
But probably
has.
fitter. But I guess that's true. It is a fairly laborious job because there are a few people in Australia that are starting to use agave syrup to make an agave spirit, which is fine, but it's sort of half the job from our perspective anyway.
Yeah, you're doing it from the base ingredient. Yeah,
basically taking the plant. So agaves, there's over 100 species in Australia, but you probably know they're native to the Americas. But there's about 30 or so that they use commonly to make mezcal in Mexico. And there's a two or three one in particular that makes up most of it, and two or three that makes up the other 10 or 15%. Now, the Americana, which is the one we use mostly, is one of those sort of 10 or 15% type range ones. The problem with Americana is that it's also a strength. It gives us a really good taste, quite a distinctive taste, much more complex than the Angustifolia, which is the more common one. Right. But it also has some negatives in terms of taking the plant. There's lots of inhibitors in it, lots of saponins and stuff like that really. So the cooking process is very important because it also the sugars in agaves are actually inulins, which is easiest to think of as a polysaccharide, a long chain sugar. So we've got to try and break that.
So it's complex to break down, in other words.
Yeah, we need to cook it, so to break it back into mainly the fructose and a little bit of glucose to get the monosaccharides that the yeasts like. But that's part of the cooking process, and then there's also those saponins and stuff in it, which like the soap type substances, which really do inhibit yeast. So there's all sorts of issues with that. But that's part of the process. So essentially harvesting the plant, we basically cut off the leaves and end up with the piña, then cooking the plant, chopping the plant up, fermenting the plant, and then obviously distilling. And then in Mezcal's case, or Agave Spirit's case, it's mostly double distilled. There's a little bit that's single distilled, and some, like the Pechuga, which is triple distilled.
Triple distilled. Go back to the fermentation, if you don't mind. Is it natural fermentation, or are you using cultured yeast? How does that work?
Well, the fermentation has been a bit of a problem for us. Sometimes I think we still don't know what we're doing. People probably think we do.
A lot of us don't. A lot of us don't, Rosemary. So don't worry about that.
We sort of seem to have
giving away all our secrets.
Well, yeah. I read stacks and stacks on the internet, and also because I'm the Instagrammer, I've built up a relationship and a rapport with quite a few Mexican palencas, and I sort of speak Spanish and read Spanish quite well enough to sort of talk to them, and if we've got a problem, I actually am quite open with asking them. But they don't have our Americana. Something I don't think Stephen quite mentioned is our particular Americana would have been brought over from America, say 100 years ago, as a garden plant. The great.
Wow.
Some people love it. And once it was brought over here, it's actually, we don't have the bats in Australia to pollinate the flowers. So every single plant is a clone. So the reason that they've spread, and it's not rampantly, because they're definitely not rampant, even though they're considered a weed, they might get washed down the river by a flood or something like that, and then they come up by helios. They're called like babies from the bottom, but they're never pollinated by bats. So they've never been genetically improved just by natural selection over the 100 years. It's not the most high sugar agave, so we definitely struggle with that. That's why we produce such small amounts each batch. But getting back to the fermentation, we had some beginner's luck, and we thought we were home and hose, and then things just did not work. And Stephen built an oven, which he'll probably talk to you about more. We don't do the actual pits that they do in Mexico, the pit with them all piled on and then the dirt and the canvas over the top. This is an earthen oven that Stephen's designed with a special flue around it. And just not that long ago, I didn't think it was smoky enough, so he sort of lifted the chimney, but I'm not too sure whether that's actually made that much difference. But with the fermentation, the cooking is incredibly important. And then there's a lot of leaving. This is what I've learned from speaking to mezcaleros and people associated with palencas in Mexico. You just basically can harvest the agave and leave it, cook the agave and leave it, crush the agave and leave it. And the leaving is often up to choosing when to do the next step is often up to smell, which is my job. And our temperatures get a lot higher than Mexico as well. So we put ours, once it's cooked, I like to leave it till it grows a bit of mould. You do get the mould off, don't worry, but it's good to leave it. Then we don't have a tahona, the big, do you know what a tahona is?
No.
Okay. So it's a big circular concrete thing. And it's almost like a tennis court roller, and a donkey will pull it round and round, and they'll shovel the chopped up agave, and that's how it's crushed up. We don't have a tahona, obviously, so we have just like a big Chinese bought juicer thing. But not that long ago, look, I decided that we're not getting enough juice out of it, and we're not stressing the agave a bit. This is why conversations with Mexicans. So after having these 2 a.m. thoughts, which I'd wake up Stephen and say, I don't think we're crushing it enough. So he gifted me a big wide hoed handle so I could crush it a little bit more.
So she can crush it. I'm kind that way.
So I've crushed it.
It's less work for you, Stephen.
And it seems to have worked. And then you have to leave it for a certain time. And there's a smell that it will get, which is almost similar to old bananas, but not rotten bananas, and you've got to pick it up at the right spot. And this is where our smells are different. Stephen can't smell it. I can smell it when I open the front door, and I can say that's ready to go in. But now that it's getting hotter, it has to be done more quickly. And another interesting thing is, we're talking about natural fermentation. We add yeast. I wish we didn't, but it just won't do it without it. However, since we've been at this for 5 years, we must have developed some yeast in our environment. Because
absolutely, got some wild yeast going on.
Yeah, and I think it's building up because agave making isn't really the cleanest thing. I like to clean things out, but it's sort of not really, you don't make them immaculate because you like to keep the yeast. So these big plastic barrels that I bash it out in, you sort of just tip it in and kind of leave a bit there. And I've been finding that it's bubbling like anything, but it just won't bubble through to the end of fermentation. So we have to have yeast.
Well, sugar components left. So the other thing as well, when comparing what we do to Mexico, Mexico is not an homogeneous environment. There's actually, well, you're probably aware, I don't know, but there's 9 different states, I suppose, that can do mezcal. They're actually licensing arrangement. It has a denomination of origin and so on, so that's why we can't do mezcal. But they actually do it differently in different places. We sort of, I guess, in a way, are based on the Oaxaca style, which is known as the home of mezcal, but there's other areas that do things slightly differently. Like in Oaxaca, it's tend to be 1,000-litre open-top fermenters, but in Durango, they actually have these, what they call coffins, which are dug into the ground and look like graves that they ferment in. And in that place, one of the mezcaleros actually sterilises their fermenters, whereas other ones, they don't.
That's because she's a female.
Possibly. But there's different ways of doing it as well in Mexico, and obviously the different agaves that they use. As I said before, one of the main ones I use is the Angustifolia, which we have in Australia as well, partly because it's shorter lived and has a higher sugar content, but also it doesn't have as many inhibitors in it as the Americana and so on. So it's a little bit easier to work with. But the taste is also perhaps simpler, not necessarily worse or anything, but just simpler. Whereas the Americana tends to be a complex taste. So.
Now, we've actually had an interesting question come through from William Rule on Facebook saying, I've only cut down one large agave and I still bear the mental scars of that burning sensation of oxalate crystals on my skin. How do you cut down so many without getting burned?
Well, that's right. It's the oxalate. I always used to, before I understood that it was oxalate crystals, I thought it was like an acid or something, but no, it's that crystalline stuff which causes the eczema. It's essentially eczema. It's quite common apparently. So I basically have reasonably gloved up and so on. Of course, the agave is also quite spiky, or the Americana in particular, and I have more scars from that. But it's sometimes I forget at different stages in the process and go out and chop something up without being fully, so the arm's fully covered, and you think, how often does it have to happen before I learn not to do that? Because it does. It's more itchy than sort of burning, itchy type sensations. But essentially, I'd like to know if there's something I can come off to dissolve those crystals, but I don't know of it. So it's essentially just, decent clothing and gloves and so on when you do it.
Learn as you go. The beautiful thing about your story is you are a true artisan craft. You're learning as you go along. You haven't been trained by an individual and paid a shit ton of money and then decided to away you go. You're doing it the hard way. You're learning as you go along. I'm really impressed, really impressed with what you know. And I can tell you, now that Sydney is starting to open up, people are, closing their laptops. They're over Zoom. They're over Zoom business. They're over Zoom, friends and that. And they just want to. This is what I personally believe. Just get back to basics and touch and feel and experience things. And man, if you're going to sell a door, I think you're in for a pretty happy time. There's a lot of people are going to be very interested in what you guys are doing because it is so unique.
Well, we did actually sell a door back in.
There's a map.
Last year.
I was going to say, have we actually said we're Blacksnake is in regards to Sydney?
Yeah, so you're a long way away.
How far away is it?
500 k's thereabouts.
500 k's. How many hours?
Oh, it's pretty good now, particularly with the Hunter Expressway things come up there. So, yeah, it's probably actually less than 500 now because of the sub cutout, but it's still a fair drive, particularly if people are not used to it. And it was good to have a bit of a tour because there's a lot of other things in this area. There's the telescope, there's various mountain type things, national parks and so on, as well as the agricultural stuff. And around the area, of course, there's other things as well. Some hot ore bars around the place and so on.
Now,
William's
we just
found
had
a
a
solution.
comment come back from William saying that he found the answer. Free the crystals, 70% alcohol. So you've got to use your alcohol.
Is that to drink it or
if you drink it, you don't feel it. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. Alcohol cures everything, really, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Over the time since we've had Instagram and people have seen what we've done, so many people, and particularly barmen interested in agave spirits, have said, I'd love to come out and help you and whatever. And I say, sure, come out, but nobody has yet. I think they might be scared of hard work.
Well, we did have one or two people come up once who were talking about this stuff, and we actually went out and cut a plant down.
Yeah, that was funny.
And I think
they were young.
Oh
my God, they couldn't keep up with Stephen.
And they just couldn't handle the pace.
That was That was quite funny, but
Time to go hard or go home.
So how long does it take for one of these plants to grow?
Well, that's it. The different plants. The angustifolia is one of the shorter lived, and in the wild, it's up to about 10 years. Probably when they farm it, it can be a little bit quicker, 6 to 8. But the Americana is about 20 years. So, and you only get one go at it. So the plant, you can actually try to harvest it just before it flowers because it's got maximum sugar content. But if it starts to flower, you can cut the flower off and it will survive for a while and build up the sugar again, and you can take it later. But as I said, they die after they flower. So there's only one grow, flower, die in that for the Angus, the agaves. But I was going to say that in Mexico, there's a lot of farmed agave, much easier to get at. Part of our challenge is that all our Americana is wild. So what happens when it's wild is that the plant grows, sends out the pups to the babies, and they grow. And so the one you want is the older one, which will be in the middle of all these spiky things. So that's part of the fun, I suppose.
Another part of our problem is all our agaves are growing on 55 acres that we own, probably a kilometre from where we are here. And so we park the ute and
Sometimes.
Look, I don't know whether you're maybe too young or didn't watch it, but do you remember that show called Lost? Do you remember when the aeroplane landed? And maybe you don't. But anyway.
No, I never saw it, but I know it. But I'm older than that. I'm a lot older than that. I thought you were going to say something from the
60s. But thank you.
We're feeling quite young now.
So anyway, we park the ute and we get the wheelbarrow and the what's the thing called, the chain?
Oh, the hand winch.
Yeah, and our gloves and our big knives and the dog. And
dog doesn't do much good.
No, he's pretty pathetic. But we walk. How far would it be to get to the plant?
So it's only maybe it's only 500 metres or something at the most.
Yeah, but it's not an easy 500. It's up and down and round rocks. So then finally we get to, one of the patches of agaves. That's the easy one. If you want to go down the creek, I actually put a video on Instagram. Must have been last year or the year before, where we chose to harvest. So we parked the ute 500 metres down Uluru Creek, up the other side, harvested this, 150 kilo plant, cut it into quarters, and I thought this will make a really good Instagram thing. So I thought I'd video Stephen as he's going down the embankment, and I'm thinking, first day, can I even remember my first day? Because he's not going to make it down there with the wheelbarrow, but he did. So down across the creek and up, and then down the 500 metres, because you can't get the ute any closer. I mean, I've wheeled wheelbarrows of, how many kilos would it be?
Would have been 50, 60.
Yeah, 50, and I'm not that big, 50 or 60 kilos for 500 metres, and then get to the ute and toss it all on. This is why we want some help.
Free labour. That's why.
We want free labour.
Todd can come and work for us, particularly if he's working for free.
Yeah, Todd. It's been laid on a plate for you.
And it's so hot. And also we've done it the best time to do it is in summer. And we can get 45 degrees, 40 degrees, and then, let alone worrying about the snakes. And
I was going to say, snakes, they must be a hell of a problem for you.
No. They're all right. Honestly, Rosemary's a little paranoid.
I'm getting better.
But I don't have a problem with snakes. They're just
Scare the crap out of me.
Yeah. But look, we dressed pretty well protected. It was funny when we went to Mexico, just before we left, we'd been in sort of like a 2-year drought, and it had not rained all year, and it was basically, there wasn't a blade of green on our place. It was so depressing. And the day that we left, it started to rain. We were in Mexico 3 weeks a month or something like that, and it almost rained the whole time. So when we came back to go and harvest, going over to our place, there were sunflowers and sticky beaks like up to there. And that's why I was referring to the program Lost, because it was just like you just had to be game enough to just walk through it and hope that there weren't snakes and pigs and that's Stephen.
Yeah,
That's a flower stalk there. Probably should have got a little earlier than that, but that's still workable.
Yeah.
So
you probably
see
should wear longs too, I'd say.
You should have been in short. Oh, that was Agave Avenue. Go back to that one.
Oh, wow.
Agave Avenue.
It looks like the attack of the Triffids, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, it does.
Actually, related to asparagus. You can see that with the super asparagus stalk. So they're the same family, the asparagus family.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, wow, all right.
And that's why the sugar's inulin too, by the way. So asparagus, the sugar's inulin as well.
I'm gonna change the subject a bit. First time I saw your designs, your labels, I was so impressed, and I've watched everyone that's come out since. Obviously I know where the inspiration is, but tell us the story about how you came to put your labels together, and hold one up so people can see. I know the lighting's not so flash, but the complexity and the colors are just so vibrant.
Hey, Lee, do you want to put yours up?
Hold on. I'm going to...
Yeah, put yours up. You've got a better screen.
You're too quick for me. I was going to actually put...
You put a picture up, Luke. Yeah, okay, that's fine, Rosemary. Todd's good. Yeah, look.
There's mine.
It's
my Reposado, which I love, and I'm actually enjoying a tipple of now.
Yeah.
What I love about this one is it's so deceiving on the nose. To me, it smells like a crunchy, a Capri crunchy. You've got milk chocolate and honeycomb.
Because Tequila Aficionado, I guess we get more connected with different Instagram profiles that maybe the Australian spirits would, but Tequila Aficionado spotted us a while back and begged for some, but you can't send alcohol overseas, and we weren't going to pay like $200 or $300 to send them a bottle for free anyway. They just kept asking and asking, so I gave in, and I thought this Reposado was good, and it was also thanks to what's his name at Lord Byron Distillery?
Brian Restle.
Brian visited. Brian and his wife visited us spontaneously in an Easter, and we hadn't long won a silver. The only competition we've been in, a silver for the London Spirits competition with a Reposado that I think is, they gave us silver. But anyway, then we got these barrels from Dave Schmiede in Tasmania, and they were excellent barrels, and so we used them, and we sort of made bits and pieces all year. And when Dave delivered the barrels, we were able to fill them with 100 litres of lots of small batches. Anyway, when Dave, it was only the day before, because Brian, we're no barrel experts, and just the day before I'd knocked the cork out and tried it again, and I thought, geez, this is good. They said, we are not experts at barrels or aged spirits whatsoever. And then Brian and his wife turned up at Easter. And so when he did, I quickly ran in, knocked the cork out, the bung out, put some in a little Belladora, and I asked him, what does he think, what we should do? And he took one sip and he said, put that in a bottle right now. So thanks to Brian, we got it out of the barrels at exactly the right time. So anyway, it is really good. I love it too. So I decided I would give in and send Tequila Aficionado 200 mil, no, 100 mils in a bottle. So we had to send 100 to this bloke, Mike Morales in California. And then they always have a person, taster. And unfortunately, our other one was a man in Essex in England. So then we had to send one to Essex in England. So went to the Narrabri post office. I don't know if I've sent anything international in my whole life. And I sort of knew you weren't meant to send alcohol via post, but I wrapped it all up and I put like a birthday present and put a card on it and everything. And when I got to the post office, I know that I was going to be asked 20 million questions. And so they said, they filled out the form and they said, what's in the parcel? And I've got no idea why. The first thing that came to my mind, I said, a snow globe. Why the hell would we send a
snow globe?
It's like cocaine.
And I just can't believe it. So when Mike Morales got it and Philippe Harada in Essex, they said, so we've received like a snow globe. I mean, snow globes are $5. Why would I spend $30 on postage to send a $5 globe? And for 2 or 3 weeks, I was absolutely sure that, I was going to get put into jail for sending
That's beautiful, Rosemary.
my life.
But they liked it.
Oh, that was what I was getting to. Tequila aficionado went absolutely bananas over it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, and they even did another video called Musings on Blacksnake, and look, they almost said it was the best one that they'd ever tasted. I find that a little bit hard to believe when we really don't know what we're doing, and we just but apparently it's good.
So,
I love it.
You go,
Let's just go back to the label, I suppose, which is the question which prompted all that.
Yeah. I want to know more about the label. How much input did you have in the design?
Well, that's the painting. It's an original painting done for us by a lady called Mavis Stone, who's a Kamilaroi person, and this is Kamilaroi country. So, and the Blacksnake is actually one of the totem animals of the Kamilaroi.
Would you got a bit of a
I don't
lag?
think it's a major one, but it's still one of the totem animals of Kamilaroi.
Can you say that again? We had a bit of a lag. We missed it. So start with the person who did the work on the label.
You all, if you can hear us. I don't know if you can see.
So
Yeah,
what
we can
sort
hear
of
you.
animal was it? The black snake.
Yeah. A woman by the
Oh, frozen.
Oh,
I think
we're.
No, I
think
believe
the
they
rain
said
is
that it's one of their totems.
It is. So, Kamilaroi.
I can see Todd.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah.
I think they're back.
Yeah,
There we go.
Luke.
Yeah.
So,
Go for it.
Mavis Stone, who's a Kamilaroi person. Oops, lost that picture.
Oh, no, just as we're getting to the good stuff.
I know it's frozen again. Maybe
The joy of Australian telecommunications.
they're back.
Yeah.
Try again, Stephen.
God bless
If
the
we need to,
Indian.
we can fall back to the phone call. We'll just lose video. We'll give it another moment and then we'll see how we go. Have we got you guys?
Okay, well, we're all back at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I've got you.
So,
And
so
we
to
can see
catch
us.
up,
Can you see us? So
Yeah, we can see you.
yes.
So
Yeah,
go
we
back
just drop
to
out a
the
bit.
start of the label.
So Mavis Stone, who's a local Kamilaroi person who was from up Boggabilla Moree way, who's now living in Tamworth or Katingal, near Tamworth. We actually commissioned her to do a painting for it based on the area, and obviously in the way that she would interpret it as a Kamilaroi person and the black snake itself. And this is what she's come up with. You can see on that picture, you can see the 3 rivers or the 3 waterways. They're actually representing at Narrabri where the creek actually splits and then comes back together. Obviously, agave is something which is not traditional, but because of of us, the black snake and so on, the black snake around it, and then you've got other things like the Capitar Mountains and the Pilliga Forest, which are also fairly significant issues for the Kamilaroi people in this area. So that was something that we pay acknowledgement to the Kamilaroi people and use that as our label. And so So that's our label, adjusted, of course, and the central snake areas are almost like our logo, the point thing we use as well. So, so she's
And it's in a circle. So
very happy with that, and we're very happy with what she did.
Yeah, your labels are beautiful. They really are.
Yeah, well, the snake, I guess you could almost...
Very catchy.
It just has a lot of power and energy that really translates.
Yeah, well, we...
Yeah, lovely.
So that's the story.
How would you recommend it?
And it's actually on she's on our website too.
Okay, so if someone was to buy one of your bottles,
oh, go for it.
If someone was to buy one of your bottles, how would you recommend that they enjoy your spirit?
That's a good question, Todd.
Oh,
Drinking it straight and mixes. How would you?
Well, I don't know whether I should say Stephen and I are too old for cocktails, or maybe we're right in the right age bracket. I barely had a cocktail in my whole life, and I don't think either of us have ever had a margarita, which is probably amazing considering we make the spirit for it. But I think because we have to taste it and taste the complexity, and I think because we know the work that goes into it, I just cannot understand why you would put other things in to shadow what we make. That's my opinion anyway. So, however...
Can I give you...
Having said that...
I'll give you an analogy on that, right? And this is something which I struggled with at first. So when I started my whiskey journey, before I was drinking single malt, I was drinking whiskey and Coke, right? And that's how generally people start in the whiskey category. And over time, I moved into single malt, and the concept of having whiskey and Coke was just it didn't make sense to me. But what I've learnt over the years is you can make a whiskey and Coke with a peated quality whiskey, and it is a totally different drink than just your bulk standard whiskey and Coke. So you get quality raw material, spirit going into mixes. You'd be amazed what flavors you can generate. So tequila, agave, same thing, guaranteed, same thing. So
it would be interesting. It'd be interesting to get you to collaborate with the guys at Karu. They are the kings and queens of the mixer.
Yeah,
and they've done that. I know personally. They've sent me some things that I thought would not work, that were just weird as, and they were spot on. So I reckon Karu would be able to find you the perfect mixer to go with your spirit.
The trouble is, though, to be perfectly honest, I don't know if we're that interested in mixing it. Look, definitely we could.
It is good on its
own. There's no doubt about that, but it's just, I don't know whether because we've come into this later and there's so much hard work behind it, and I've just done so much tasting at hours of the day that I shouldn't be tasting, like quickly tasting something before I go to work at a school. Not really, it shouldn't be done.
If I could sort of, one of Rosemary's suggestions, because we're a little concerned that people who buy our drink may not understand it. So we basically talked about putting in place, if we're going to buy some of our stuff, we want a blood sample and 3 generations of history of the family.
The order form is quite full, yeah.
But it's not, we could certainly do with more sales, but we just know rejected, maybe a dark.
Sorry, Crafty, we might have to ask you to mute your mic when you're not talking.
Oh, okay.
The rain is loud.
Yeah, that's nuts on that shed.
Yeah, well, you should be here. Hold on.
Oh. Well, the rest of us can now think. Not turn yourself off, you bullhead.
Yeah, that's much quieter.
Oh, I know.
It is much
Oh, look,
quieter.
the ratings are picking up all of a sudden as well.
We actually get so much more done when he's not here.
Yeah, that's it.
So, whilst he figures himself out, oh, here he comes. He's coming
I'm
back.
back. Have I turned my microphone off?
Well, no.
That was mic, not video, bullhead.
Oops. I am not the IT part of this partnership. I am
That's
Captain
very
Kirk.
obvious
I'm
tonight.
Captain Kirk. Luke is Scotty,
Uh
and Todd is Spock.
huh. That's logical.
And
So
we're on a journey going nowhere.
I
So
don't
carry
get
on.
your logic here.
So I'm really interested and just want to know more about the Pachuga and your particular spin on it, Pachugaroo.
Yeah.
Tell me how that came about and what. Give us a.
Before we start,
What is it?
can I just, not understanding exactly what's going on, have we had no people in on this whatsoever?
Oh yeah.
Has there been no
Well, one or
people
two questions.
watching? Or can you
Oh,
see
no,
us?
we do have people watching, but a lot of them, they're not very forthcoming in questions. at
They're
times.
just not coming up. Maybe we had a complete fail.
What we do though is we put this on YouTube
Okay.
YouTube as well down the track. So
Yep.
I know.
We
I
get a
just
lot of,
remember when I
it was
watched Karoo, you could see.
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Oh, that may
Pachuga.
be because you're in full screen
When
mode.
we went to Mexico. Sorry, what is that?
Because we're in full screen. What is the?
Yeah, you're in full screen mode, so you won't be able to see the comments.
Oh, that's a shame. I was thinking that nobody had been watching us whatsoever. Okay.
oh no, there's
I'll
people
get
there,
to
don't
the
worry.
Pachuga. So okay.
Both of them.
Both of them. Right, so the Pachuga. When we went to Mexico and tried many different agave spirits, we discovered Pachuga at Felix Angelis Palenque outside Oaxaca. I can't remember quite the district. Absolutely fell in love with it. And it took us a little bit of time to work up the courage to make a Pachuga because I didn't know how to. So I remember talking to the person that took us around, and I was talking to Dari de Silva, and I was trying to get a little bit of an idea of, the quantities and what to do. But I think that kind of everything was lost in a bit of translation with Spanish.
I don't even know what goes in the Pachuga.
So we it was sort of a bit of hit and miss. Anyway, the first Pachuga was really pretty good. It was made on angustifolia, a few plants that we got from Stephen's brother in Dubbo, and it was nice. I really liked it. Second Pachuga was
Where am I?
made
Oh, what happened?
a lot more complex.
In the middle of the sentence.
I just muted him. Carry on. Ignore.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, guys.
So, look, I came up with the idea of using kangaroo as a protein, but to be honest, I wasn't game enough for many reasons. Look, one of them is that let's take a gin maker. When they develop a gin, from what I can understand, particularly I remember following Karoo and their Marita vodka, it was a process of 6 years. Mightn't be that long that Ali said, but it was definitely, they developed it. This sounds almost like a little bit embarrassingly quick, but because our agave batches are so small, we just can't trial something. It's like make it, it's good, and it's bad or not. So it's like do it and release it, or do it and it's bad. I was wanting to do something with kangaroo to give it an Australian slant, and absolutely fell in love with, where is it? I think I got this from Bondi Beach Cellars, who I'd really like to give a plug to because, my God, they have a good range and great service. So I got this 5 Sentidos Pechuga made on a mole, which is basically like a Mexican sauce of chili and cardamom and coriander and chocolate and chili and it's basically the best yogurt I've ever had.
Okay.
So I started to think that I would like to do a pechuga with more body. But I'm not a 5 Sentido. I'm a middle-aged married woman in Narrabri. What the heck can I achieve? So we got some kangaroo. Now, the main reason I did this was because our daughter's getting married on New Year's Eve, and her husband-to-be, they've been together for quite some time. They've got 3 kids, so they've got 3 grandkids. He's a professional kangaroo shooter, and probably is a very excellent and one of the best kangaroo shooters in Australia, who shoots kangaroos that end up in woolies, etc. So I thought, well, how good is that? Wedding kangaroo shooter. It just has to happen. So we had a very good batch of Hoven, and I thought I can turn this into a pechuga. So I altered the recipe somewhat, and like any mezcalero, not that I am one, I can't reveal my recipe, or I would have to kill you.
But
So I'm
perhaps
not
you
going
should
to do
give them
that.
some of it. Because I haven't really told anything that goes in except the meat.
So this time, look, the other 3 pechugas, I went fairly heavy on papaya. And while it's a really good fruit, it can end up tasting a little bit like a rotten fruit, which some of our agave spirits, some of our Hoven can have that taste because it's a very long ferment. The longer the ferment, the more it tends to turn into sort of like that lactic kind of, I know it sounds revolting, baby sick. However, it's a very
Makes sense.
considered a very good agave apparently if it's got.
Baby sick.
Yeah, I know it sounds disgusting, but anyway, that's what ours is like. So we had this good batch of Hoven, and I wanted to turn it into a pechuga. So I altered the recipe, and I took out the papaya entirely, and upped a couple of other things, and it was like it was a make or break. It was going to do it, and we were going to release it because we didn't have any other stuff. Like, it takes us so long to ferment anything in such a small batch, and I wanted a little bit of that chili chocolate taste, and I like cardamom. Not everybody does, so there was a bit of cardamom and some other bits and pieces, and then we hung the kangaroo on the inside of the still. And
Not the whole kangaroo.
not the whole kangaroo, and we didn't get it. From
That would have been a
road
shot
where
on
half
Insta.
of them killed. I got it respectfully.
So do you
prepare
the kangaroo first? Do you prepare the kangaroo first?
Prepared, Luke. I didn't have to do it.
So it's sliced up as just raw kangaroo meat.
It's raw.
Yeah, Yeah. The only downside to using kangaroo meat is that it has, look, you're lucky to have 1% fat. And the thing about a pechuga is you tend to use a piece of meat that has some natural fat. So as the vapors go through, the fat will drip down and add some protein and some body and flavour to the dish.
Wow, this sounds fascinating.
Really,
That is, we so need to go for a road trip.
I think so. I mean, what you're describing is just, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
It's so
and so vegan friendly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
After I made up the recipe, which I absolutely note down to a fine tooth comb, like almost every grain of, and you actually put rice in it as well, like rice and raisins and all sorts of interesting stuff. And I wouldn't have known this had we not gone to Oaxaca, and nothing like illegal, of course, but like it's all very what you can get in Australia, I guess, and so. Look, I don't actually know how they make a pechuga exactly. So we developed our own way of doing it. And so we marinate the fruit and all the recipe, everything that I put in it, into the distillate for a few hours. And then we tie the kangaroo meat into the top of the still, and then we just distill it after that. And as soon as it started coming out, look, I knew it was good. And we'd let it sit for, 2 or 3 weeks, and I'd try it constantly. And I thought, look, we think it's really good. It's not going to be to everybody's taste because it's, I guess it's a little bit different. And there's going to be some haters out there. But so far the feedback has been good, and I guess the one that really takes the cake is somebody who we don't know bought 2 bottles, and I messaged him because we sent them separately, and when he got them, he said, I cracked them in the car park of the post office. That's enthusiasm for you. He didn't even get home. I hope he had a very good one. He didn't split it from the bottle, but and he couldn't have been more complimentary. And we've had a lot of positive feedback. Chris Dempsey from El Loco in Sydney, who's an agave guru, he said it's been one of his top pechugas ever. But, it's nice to get good feedback. So, Luke, I can't wait till you get yours and tell us what you think.
Well, hang on before you...
And I think we only had...
Yeah. You need to let us know when you get yours so we can all come around to your place.
Yeah. Absolutely. But just let me add something, though. So the craft drinks market, which was a phenomena in Sydney 2 years ago, and Todd and I were there for the inaugural, and it was fantastic. And then obviously COVID hit. Now, I believe there's a mini craft drinks market, which is going to be done on the grounds of Mobius Distillery in December. Little Birdie told me that someone might be pouring some of your stuff there. Is that true? In December?
Which one? At the mini?
What?
At the mini craft drinks market in December.
I know the one you're talking about, and I saw it because Karoo put it on their Instagram. I emailed whoever organises it, and we sort of got no, it's not possible. It's just a mini market, and I'm in a jazz band, and look, we've got a jazz band thing that I almost can't get out of that day. Is that the 11th? I think I might have 2.
I think it is. Anyway, when we get off,
I've got no idea.
Okay, when we get off the channel, we'll talk about it more because the craft drinks market is firing up again in quarter 1, and it's going to be fantastic because people are going to experience your product, and it is so different, and there's such a story behind it. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know, but I don't think we can get to that one. We have.
Right, I've got my RSA now. I'll pour it.
Yeah.
3 of us there. Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Leave it with me, Rosemary. We'll talk later. Anyway, before we go much further, we've hit the hour mark, so we'll have to wrap up soon. But we have a little spot which we give our man, the Todd, his 20 seconds of fame.
I've been talking quite nicely tonight.
Oh, no, it doesn't count, mate. You've still got your 20 seconds of fame. So we all shut up. The microphone is handed to Todd, and he asks a few questions. So without further ado...
First question.
I hadn't even done the drum roll.
Oh, okay.
Luke,
do your thing.
Where's the drum roll? Or the sound effect? We need a sound effect. There we are. We've got our sound effect for Todd. All right.
I like that they always build me up. Okay. So what does the Jimmy do?
He cuts the agave penas like that with the that blade thing. like that. Humidor. It's called.
Is that the harvest the
Humidor.
agave plant? Yeah.
Yes.
Yay, that's one win for me.
That's 2.5 seconds. Go.
Okay, damn. Okay, so what is sangrita?
Oh my God! It's some Spanish sort of red wine. Is it?
That's sangria.
Or is it mixed with red wine?
It's along the same process. So basically what they're saying is that it's a savory, non-alcoholic drink that sits alongside your tequila.
Oh, well, there's your problem. Non-alcoholic. Well, like we would know that.
Hey,
Yeah.
well,
Where the hell do you get your references from, Todd?
look, that short notice Dr. Google is fantastic.
Yeah. Family friendly too. This is not a family friendly show. All right, question number 3.
Look, we've possibly covered it before tonight, but just to clarify, what's the difference between tequila and agave and the other
Mezcal.
mezcal?
Well, I mean, they're all agave spirits, but because tequila and mezcal have a denomination of origin, we can't use those names. Mezcal and tequila are both sort of licensed. There's a bureau in Mexico that licenses them. There's 9 states for both tequila and mezcal that can make it. They're not quite the same states, but they overlap strongly. So, and there's some slight differences in the production process.
Tequila can only use blue agave. Mezcal can use any agave. Is that your answer?
That'd be fantastic. That was just one I just asked. I've got no answer for that one. So,
And so then ASP, agave spirit, that's because, so you came up with that term?
Yeah, it's our name, partly because of agave spirit and also because of the Blacksnake Distillery. And we needed some name, I guess, to swing off. So ours, I just sort of had a bit of catchiness to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There you go. You're pioneers.
and can you only harvest the agave plant once, or is it sort of like trimming the grass?
It's only once, basically, because you take the whole plant at ground level, actually. So it's gone, it's finished. So I said you only get one go at the plant.
Yeah.
And how many plants does it take per batch?
How big is your batch?
How big are your, well, one of the questions that we had earlier
How big's your still?
was how big is a typical run?
Well, we have a 300 litre still, 330, but it's rarely choco. So our distillation is anywhere from 150 to 250 litres. Whether we put, because we've got fairly small fermenters, they're only 200 litre fermenters, but we may put stuff from 2 of them into the one distillation because, and I'm not sure, I can't remember, but we essentially, each piña could be anywhere, well, it could be 100 kilos, the bigger, because the Agave Americana is fairly big, so it could be 100 kilos. So we could have between them, so what you actually get out per plant is not a lot. So our distillation run of, say, 200 litres, we might only get, say alcohol, pure alcohol, you might only get, 10 to 15 litres of alcohol at the most.
Whoa, really?
So at the most.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
That's intense. That's a massive amount of work
Yeah.
for not a lot of volume, eh?
It's a bugger of a plant to work with, which is why
We don't expect that. There will be other people that do it. And there'll be a lot of people. Well, we know of a few that are putting in big money to do blue agave, but
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
more industrial, where, I mean, the artisanal side is a lot of work for not a lot of return. And I guess that's where things like, what do we charge? We want people to try it, so we can't charge too much. We can't charge what it would be worth in terms of labour and effort and so on, but it's still reasonably expensive.
Wow. And then, so based on based on the amount of agave that goes into a small amount of actual end product, how much have you got left?
Not the agave.
How much?
Well,
Yeah, and given that it takes so long to grow and to mature, it must be absolute labour of love.
well, it's love-hate relationship.
I think it's a labour of insanity, to be honest.
It's a reasonable amount. Now, as I said, the Americana has been in Australia for over 100 years, and it's been placed in gardens, particularly west of the ranges. It's a really good drought-tolerant plant, but it's why it's on our place is because that's the creek that goes through. So it's been washed down the creek because it's basically mechanically transferred. It doesn't set seed, as we said earlier. So there's quite a lot, but there's also patches all around. They're not everywhere, but there's patches of them. You'll find, particularly where there's old farmhouses, they may not even be a farmhouse there anymore, but you'll see a patch of Americana growing, and there's a fair chance there was a house or a shed or something there in the past that people had planted that Americana. So one imagines that if we basically use up the stuff around here, which is not likely because there's lots of youngsters and so on, but there's also other places that we can get. It's obviously more expensive the further you go, but there are opportunities around. And I guess other people might try to do it as well, which is fine. We can't stop them doing that.
Wow.
I'd be a long way behind you.
Yeah,
guys. The last question from me would be, where can we get your spirit?
That's more than 20 seconds.
Oh, shut up, you.
What was the question?
Where can we buy your spirit?
Oh, you can buy it online.
Buy it online?
Online, and we haven't long signed up with Nip of Courage.
Give them a bit.
Yeah, they've got a bit of stuff, and they've been very nice to us, and that's quite good. But basically us and Funky Drop as well.
Funky Drop, yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, he's been. He discovered us a long time ago, and
Well, there's a few bars around the place as well that like drinks rather than. Although Bondi, it was mentioned that bottle shop, it's had some of ours. I'm not sure whether it's got any currently. And there's some bars like we talked about, a Loco, Dulce's in Sydney. There's
Dulce's, yeah.
Dulce's, yeah, Brandy. Yeah, cool. So you're on a Brandy's bar. That's awesome.
I can't believe we haven't mentioned them. They were the first ones that spotted us on Instagram when, like, one of the kids said, you need an Instagram. And I sort of said, what's Instagram? And then she set me up, and I made mistakes. The first time I talked to Dulce, I was actually talking to some bodybuilder in the USA until I realised.
Oh, Stephen, this sounds a bit dodgy.
But Dulce's have been wonderful to us, and we love them.
And there's a few. Melbourne, a bit far away, but Melbourne's actually quite a lot of bars in Melbourne are interested. And there's a few Sydney, obviously centre of Sydney around Surrey Hills and so on. There's a few places that are interested.
Yep. One thing that's happening now, which is obviously with the COVID lockdown, it's been brutal. It's been brutal for a lot of us. But with the opening up, one of the great institutions in Sydney is the Oak Barrel. And Scott, aka Janet Lover, is departing the Oak Barrel and moving on to other grounds. But it's believed that there's someone which is replacing Scotty, and he will move it forward in his directions. Now, one of the big things about the Oak Barrel is tasting events, tasting experiences. And so when you've got a room and it's your night and you've got 30, 40 people in that room and you're telling your story, that is such a wonderful experience. And you guys, you will experience that with the Oak Barrel, because I know you're in with the Oak Barrel. I know you're connected.
We did sell some, but it's a while ago now. They bought some.
Yeah, look, it's just been a brutal time all around. But with events opening up, if we're off the air, I'd say you need to be talking to the Oak Barrel and teeing up an event in 2022, because your room will be packed, because you are doing something, and I'm not blowing smoke, but you're doing something so unique and got such a unique story. And everyone craves the craftsmanship, the artisan, and experiencing it. And yeah, I mean, I know you. I don't know you well, but I'm blown away by what I've heard tonight. It's just, it wants you to go away and get on Wikipedia and start exploring, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
It's actually been a fantastic night, guys. So thank you for sharing with us. So.
And guys, this is our first one in 4 months.
Can I pinpoint you to come and visit us, please? I know you've said it, and what can we do to make you come this 500 kilometres? What will it take? I'm a reasonably good cook. We have an in-ground pool. We have
Paul. Yeah, right.
So
you've got agave spirit on tap.
Look,
I mean, if anything else.
To work for that.
I'll come out there and cut down the plant for you. That sounds like fun.
Look, I have been known to drive a 12-seater bus out of Sydney. I have been known to drive it to a distillery called Blacksnake Distillery. And 2022, there's plans afoot. And like where I am, Capity, we're 3 hours from there. Well, you nailed it, mate. We're 3 hours. We're 3 hours from Sydney, and there's a lot out there. And you know, we're all New South Wales distillers. We're all doing our thing. We've got our unique stories, and when people get to see and experience things firsthand, they just light up. So, yeah, don't worry. People are coming. It's just when they're coming, but people are coming.
I'm coming out.
And we're coming at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm making an executive decision tonight.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. So,
hold on. Where's the mute button?
3 years ago, we did a launch of a Craftworks whiskey called Black Soul Beast, and we went and we had an event at a local campground down the Capity Valley, which Capity Valley is one of the widest valleys in the world. It is spectacular. Anyway, we planned an event in September, one winemaker, one distiller, and one brewer. And we couldn't pull it together, obviously, because of the COVID lockdown. But we're in the process of planning it for March. You are coming as my guests, and you are bringing your wonderful spirit.
Please.
So we will be around a fire. We will be drinking whiskey. We will be drinking other things, but we will be drinking Agave local.
Love it. And
now I better go tell the other boys.
You better go and do that, yeah.
No, seriously, March. I'll give you the details, but yeah, it'd be a fantastic opportunity, guys. Your story is wonderful. Your alcohol is amazing. People need to understand what it is. So it's we're going to do it. There we are. That's the commitment. I've done it. I'm in trouble.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's just been
interesting.
Nerve-wracking, but good.
Well, we hope you enjoyed tonight.
Very good.
Yep, it was good. Very good.
We've enjoyed having you on. We've enjoyed hearing your stories and getting to know you as personalities. And this is one of the things that Aussie Craft Distillers Shooting the Shit is all about. It's about introducing people to, distillers, craft distillers out there, and ordinary people giving it a go and doing it their way.
Yeah. And Luke, when you get your Pachuga, please let us know what you think.
Oh, as soon as it hits my doorstep, I'm going to be cracking it open. I probably won't even make it back to my desk before I've had a good sip.
I'm back Monday, Tuesday, Luke, remember.
If there's any left.
Anyway, we'll wrap it up, guys. To everyone out there, if you haven't seen us, you'll see us on YouTube, and Luke will fill in with the rest of it. But to our special guests, Stephen and Rosemary from Blacksnake Distillery, it's been a wonderful night. We've had a lot of fun. We've learnt a lot, and really, really excited for what's going on.
jump online. The website is on the screen there now, blacksnake.com.au. This one I can personally vouch for is amazing. I can't wait to try the Pachuga Roux.
And we've lost the boy.
It's your
It just-
fault.
He just pops in and out.
He's-
Seriously,
yeah,
this is what it's like working at the shed. He just
He's
pops
here,
in and
he's
out.
not. So now we're just close the whole thing, and you'll come back and go, "Where'd you all go?"
Yeah.
Right.
But
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, guys. It's been wonderful chatting with you. Everyone should jump onto blacksnake.com.au and buy a couple of bottles. Jump
Please.
onto the Instagram as well, and yeah, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Signing out.
Bye.